Today on the DML News Podcast, tariffs, well, they're not as bad as all the Democrats had to say. And the stock market recovered nicely yesterday. We're going to talk deeply about that. We're also going to talk about how people have become celebrities in this country, especially on the pro-Trump side, when they really don't deserve it. And radical judges face a headwind thanks to the GOP. We've got these stories and more, so get ready because it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my son, Denny, and on the controls, my son, Ryan. We are a family. We come to you every single day, no matter what it is, Monday through Friday, and we always give you a program. So this way, you know what's going on with the Trump administration, the Make America Great Again movement, and all those slime balls, the resistance, who try to make it stop. They try to stop the Trump train. We're not going to let that happen. 47 Report, 47report.com is a newsletter. It is the greatest newsletter ever created in mankind. That's what I'm told anyway. And it covers everything you need to know about Trump, his administration, Make America Great Again, and like I said, the resistance. If you go to 47report.com, you put in your email address starting tomorrow morning, you will get a newsletter 7 days a week. There is no other newsletter that is as informative as the 47 Report. And then as a extra bonus, Monday through Friday at about 5 to 6 p.m., although I sent it out late last night, I was waiting for a few things to happen, and they did happen. We're going to talk about it today. You get the DML report. It usually takes one big, huge happening for the day, and we give you the stats, the insights, and the opinions you need to know, so this way you're the most informed person there is. Go to 47report.com, put your email address in. You will be a happy camper the next day. If you don't do it, then you might as well just start following Nancy Pelosi because you must be a Democrat. With that said, also want to let you know today is the last day of the buy one, get one free at dmlcbd.com. If you have not gone in and got your share, you would be silly not to do so. Two reasons being, number one is the buy one, get one free is something we do every couple of months, but we are moving out of this location in the next couple of weeks. We're starting the process anyway. So the next BOGO may be delayed a little bit. So you want to get your stuff now. Not only does it help you, it helps us because it's less stuff for us to move if we're shipping things out. Also, look, these tariffs, they are great for America, but they are not great for products that are coming in, right? So we have a special bottle that's not made here in the United States. It's made in Europe. There's no way of getting around it, especially for the way that we make our product. It's the best there is. It's the Ferrari. And if you want it to be a Ferrari for a long time while it's in your cupboard waiting for you to grab it, I need these specialized like ultraviolet ray protective bottles. So those are going to go to be more expensive on me. So I may have to actually raise the price a little bit while we adjust things. And so you would want to get in there and get in there now. dmlcbd.com. All right. I hate to be one of those guys who said, I told you so, but I'm going to say, I told you so. Yesterday was one of the most colossal days ever on Wall Street. And I know today, I think the markets are, I haven't even looked yet, but I know from what I read real quick, maybe Dennis knows, take a look, Dennis, go to CNBC and see what the markets are down. But they'll be down a little bit today, and that's because what people do is they do a thing called profit taking. And as I've explained to you before, your investments, your 401ks, your buying of stock is not what dictates the market. It really is not. It's institutional money. Now, when I say institutional money, these are big, huge funds, state-driven retirement funds, you name it, college funds, just tons and tons of money that is managed by Wall Street on behalf of these big, huge institutions. And these traders can dictate the market. It's almost like a bit of a collusion, if you will. And I mean, I'll give you an example. We have a collusion here, as far as I'm concerned, where I live in Indian River County. Every single last realtor, all charges the same. Nobody dares to go underneath. Nobody dares to go underneath that 6%, 5%. And basically, they've all made this sort of handshake, unwritten, if you will, that they're not going to dip below that, because if nobody dips below it, everybody who sells their house has to be at that 5-6%, right? If you wound up having some discount realtor come in, well, they would be shunned. So this is what happens on Wall Street. They run the prices up and they run the prices down. However, at the end of the day, the market does have its own mind. And if this were a crisis of massive magnitude, this tariff thing that Trump's got going on, you would not have seen a recovery yesterday. Now, yes, you're going to get a dip down today because people are going to check in their profits. But trust me when I tell you, as I said on Facebook, we've hit a bottom. What that means, when you say when we've hit a bottom, when the markets start coming back up, they say, hey, listen, we don't need to go further down. Even if they do, for some reason, it's going to bounce right back up. And the truth is that Trump's tariffs and his strategy is brilliant. But see, you can't get a Wall Street economist who at best is good with a calculator. You can't get that person to understand how the mind of Trump works. You can't get most people to understand that. It is a very rare person who can become a billionaire on their own. You know, you look at the Walmart family, and the Walmart family, the kids and the grandkids, they're billionaires. But they're not billionaires because they did what Trump did. They're billionaires because they're just generational money being handed down in a stock that just stays good forever because Walmart is such a successful brand. Same thing with a bunch of, look at Paris Hilton. You think she created her wealth on her own? No, she's just a byproduct of the Hilton brand. Donald J. Trump created his brand. Donald J. Trump scaled past anything his father ever was in the real estate industry. To become a billionaire, I mean, you look at somebody like Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is what you call a lucky billionaire. Let me tell you something about Mark Cuban, just as I'm going all over the place here, but I think it's very informative. Mark Cuban, known to most for being the host of Shark Tank, also known for being now a minority owner of the Dallas Mavericks basketball team, but used to be the main owner of it. People look at Mark Cuban. He's on television all the time. I don't know why they continue to put him on there. But Mark Cuban is a billionaire. However, how did he get there? Let me tell you how he got there. Remember this thing called the dot-com era in the late 90s when people were paying gazillions of dollars for stupid stuff just because it had a .com at the end of the name? Mark Cuban was one of those lucky people. Yahoo, which couldn't get out of its own way, had this brain fart for a long time where they were just going up and buying companies because it said .com at the end, thinking that everything that had .com on it was going to wind up becoming this big, huge gold rush. Well, Mark Cuban had this failing, ridiculously useless company that did something like audio broadcasts on the internet of college basketball games. It was something along that line. It was bleeding money. It was barely generating any revenue at all. Listen, your local bagel store had more upside than this thing. But because it said .com, Yahoo went in and bought this thing for billions of dollars. And Mark Cuban, luckily, became a billionaire because of stupidity of Yahoo. That's how he got to where he is today. If anybody had any, and we're going to talk about that a little bit here today. If anybody had any common sense at Yahoo at the time, Mark Cuban would be a name that you would never even know. He'd be lucky right now at best if he was middle class, let alone a billionaire. So you go back to Donald J. Trump. He created everything on his own. He didn't get lucky. And yes, he had a couple of failures. I love these idiots that I mean, it's just, when I say I love, it's so entertaining to read some of the comments on Facebook. Oh, yeah, he's had so many bankruptcies. He's going to bankrupt the country. Listen, Babe Ruth is in the Hall of Fame. He struck out 7 out of the 10 times he'd be up. It's the other 3 when he put the ball over the fence. You could say the same about every professional athlete. They missed more than they made. Donald J. Trump, sure, he has a couple of bankruptcies on his docket. When you try as many different businesses and you take as much as risk as he has in his life? Of course. But look at his track record. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's a little bit different. Where Babe Ruth struck out 7 out of the 10 times, Trump struck out 1, 2. Then the second thing you have to take is not only did this guy become a billionaire, but then he became the president of the United States. He didn't have a party behind him. He didn't have, hey, it's my turn. I've been in the Senate for 20 years. Nothing. He was a complete outsider that people laughed at. And he was able to win the presidency not a once, but a twice. He has a unique persona that none of these people can understand. This is a man who almost had everything taken from him, including his life, over the last 3-4 years because the Democrats had witch hunts against him. And not only did he survive it, not only did he get shot in the ear and jump up and say, fight, 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 when other people would have stayed on the ground and covered themselves up like a little turtle in a shell, but he won the presidency again. Do you expect any one of these mediocre people on Wall Street or somebody who is a fake billionaire like Mark Cuban, you expect any of these people to understand how it is that Trump's mind works? Trump's mind works at a different speed and a different calculation than almost anybody I've ever met. You've got to have that style of personality. And I'd like to think I got a little touch of it. We're sort of the same person in many different ways, Trump and I. And so when I look at him and I see what he's doing with these tariffs, I don't look at it like the rest of these boneheads, like the Candace Owens and the Dave Portnoys and the Ben Shapiros, who are going to sit up there and do selfies and start to rant about how it is that they're losing all their wealth and these tariffs are horrible and the biggest tax burden ever put on the American people. They all look and sound like idiots. Total idiots. They sound like raving Democrats, to be quite honest. Donald J. Trump set a tariff strategy in mind and in place for one reason and one reason only. We have to get manufacturing back into this country. If we do not, we are screwed. Let me give you one example that we've beaten to death on here, but I want you to think about this. I want to think about how many of you people watching me right now in this week, in this month, in this year, have had to or will have to go to CVS or Walgreens to go pick up some prescription or over-the-counter medicine. Maybe you're picking up Benadryl. Maybe you're picking up Tylenol. Maybe you're picking up amoxicillin. Do you realize that the majority of things that you see in Walgreens and CVS and your local pharmacy are brought into this country from China? What happens if China tomorrow says, oh yeah, you're going to put 124% tariffs on me? I'm not sending you any more of your medications. What are you going to do? That's when you're really going to panic. You think you're worried about your 401k? Wait until you can't get your Benadryl. Wait until you wind up having one of those immediate rashes or one of those breakouts. I know my daughter, when she was having she has a disease called AERD. She would need that Benadryl, almost like somebody getting a bee sting. She would need it. What happens if it's not there anymore? Do you want to live in a country to where your greatest adversary is the difference between you living and dying? Between you being able to breathe and not? These idiots that I've already mentioned, and so many more of them, who are getting on television or writing their articles in the New York Times, even people who voted for Trump. I had some woman, and I posted this on my Facebook page, say, I didn't vote for this. I didn't sign up for this. I'm losing all of my money. First of all, that's the biggest exaggeration in the world. If you got $100 to your name and you lose 20% of it in a week, you still got $80. All these people, I'm losing all my money. She writes, it's going to take years for the market to recover. Years? It took 24 hours, Brainiac. You know what would take years to recover from? If China decides that they're going to cut us off from all our medicines. That's a real problem. So what Donald Trump has tried to do, and has done very successfully, by the way, but his own party and his own people who are, even his own voters, put doubt. I never doubted it once. Go back and watch every one of these shows, despite the fact that I have lost an incredible amount of money on paper because I haven't sold anything. In fact, yesterday morning, before the markets open, I bought a ton of stuff and I benefited from it, and I will, because I understand how the game is played. What Trump is trying to do and what Trump will do is he's setting up your country so this way, when he's long gone, you won't have to worry about getting your drugs over the counter. You won't have to worry about getting your prescriptions filled because he's going to bring it back to the United States of America. He's already talking about doing tariffs specifically for pharmaceutical companies. I love it. You want to know that your car, the only way I get a car is if it's imported from overseas or made in Mexico. Really? Come on. There's two things that China's good at making and Mexico's making. Mexico's really good at making tacos and Chinese food over in China. Other than that, we don't need them. And I bet you we could probably make a better taco and a better, cream of some young guy here in the United States. We don't need these people, but we have become dependent on them. We are relying on them. It is ridiculous. It is the same way that so many people in this country who don't deserve to be on disability or don't deserve to be on welfare of any kind just sit there and they become reliant on it. And they will cheat and steal and do whatever they got to do to get that free money. That's what we've become. We've become crack addicts for cheap shit from China. And that's what it is. It's garbage. Trump said, I'm going to tariff all of you. And the whole world said, oh, yeah, right. Let's see it. And he threw it on there. And they're like, wow, he ain't kidding around. No, I'm doubling down. I'm throwing it down again. The stock market's going down. It's going down. He doesn't care. He says, I'm going to stand my ground. And then the world is looking around saying, he ain't kidding. We better start to rally up. And then countries slowly but surely all start to come in. And then what does he do? Just when you think the bottom's going to fall out, he says, I'm going to put a 90-day pause on everybody with the exception of China. And you're all going to still get 10%. Now you got 90 days to come into my office and say how it is that you want to do a deal. Ryan, get up the clip right now. We're going to cut the line here, Ryan. Can you get the? It's actually the last video we're going to play. Let's play it first. The Trump official on Fox News. Okay, listen to this from this morning.
We have a meeting today with all the top principals where we're going to present to the president a list of what we think his priorities might look like, and then I'm sure he's going to have his own ideas about where to move things. But I can tell you that we've already got offers on the table for more than 15 countries. 15 countries. Great. Now, that doesn't mean there's a deal, but it means that you've heard the much larger number for people who call and they want to talk. But there are specific offers on the table. I've been informed from USTR of about 15 countries right now. And so this is moving fast. The thing that I joked about when we said the 90-day pause is that we're going to go around the world in 80 days and have 10 days of rest. That's our plan.
So let me explain to you, and this is the way I would do it. So I got to guess, and I haven't talked to Trump about this, but here's how I would do it if I were negotiating this thing. And I like to think I'm a pretty good negotiator. I can't think of a deal yet that I've done where I said, man, I came away on the downside of that one. Not in the last 10 years anyway. In fact, if you talk to anybody who I do business with in CBD, they will say, you are not going to, you right, Dennis? What about Nick? I've been dealing with this guy, Nick, since I started. And he says to me all the time, he goes, I know exactly what it is that you want every time I talk to you, and I will not bend. I will not bend. So here's how I would do it, and I think this is the way Trump is doing it. And again, this is speculation on my part, but I've been 100% right so far. The way I would do it is the same way. I would tell the entire world, you're all going to get tariffed up the yin-yang. Even you islands with nothing else than penguins, we're going to get you. Universal for everybody. And now everybody goes back and says, like I said already, do you think this guy's playing? Is this a game? I don't know. And then all of a sudden you see that he's going to start doubling down on China. China at 124%. Now, all the rest of the countries have a chance to come to the table. And here's what they're thinking. They're thinking, do we want to beat China? No, we don't want to beat China. So slowly but surely, like you just heard on Fox News, 15 countries so far picking up the phone because they were smart enough to sit around and say, he's not kidding. He has nothing to lose. He has no election coming up. He's got nothing to lose. He's going to do everything. We better make sure that our economy is going to stay intact because America is our lifeline. It is our bloodline. We have no other choice. Now, we're going to play another video here. Ryan, again, I'm going to cut the line, going to go back to number 5. This is with O'Leary at 400% tariffs. Talking about Shark Tank. Kevin O'Leary, who's one of the stars of that, believes that we should be going to China right now with even more. And I agree with his take. 2 reasons being, 1, if you go force on China, even higher tariffs, you're going to pin them like a wrestler has it. And we're on the 8 count. And there's only 2 counts left to 10, and then they're out. And it sends a message, more importantly, around the world. You don't want to be China. Let's listen to Kevin O'Leary right now explain about why he thinks 400% tariffs is what we should be doing. Go ahead.
But Kevin, he said there's a lot of deals that they're literally kissing his ass was the phrase he used, very eloquently. Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, sell it back here. Never has an administration
400% tariffs. What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
I am 100%. If I were the president of the United States, I would wind up having him on my team. So the more pressure we put on China, the more pressure Trump puts on China, the more the rest of the world coalesces. And here's another thing that I don't know if this is going through Trump's mind or not, but it goes through my mind. When you are putting that sort of pressure on the world, you're doing 2 things. Number 1 is you're letting the world know that their economies are going to suffer greatly. And number 2 is what you're doing is you're putting them up against the wall with their own constituents. No leader wants to look weak. And so that's one of the reasons why Trump has now said, you got 90 days. Everything will start to cool down a little. The markets, yes, the markets are down today, but it will be back up tomorrow. That's the way it's going to go. I've told you this. It's like a heartbeat. The up is bigger than the down. Don't worry about it. It's going in the right direction. And then 30 days, 60 days, things will cool. There will be other world events going on. People have short memories. And what will happen is the president or the prime minister of this country and that country will come to Trump. They won't look like a fool to their own country. And nicely, it will be saying, hey, we came up with a deal with the United States. And nobody looks stupid. Meanwhile, you got China. And China and Xi Jinping, they've got big egos. And they are not going to want to say that Donald J. Trump is the leader. But 90 days from now, when those tariffs are on China at 400% or 200% or whatever the number is, they are going to start to be choked. And there will be no choice but for China to come to the table. No choice. This will be one of the greatest victories that has ever been in the United States when it comes to our economy. This is an entire reset, a desperately needed reset, where this country is going to come back tenfold. I don't use that number easily. Tenfold. We are going to get back to our glory days of the 30s and 40s and 50s when we were making things and people had pride in America. You don't want to walk into Walgreens or CVS ever in your lifetime and hear that you can't get your basics or your very well-needed prescriptions because China cut you off. These idiots that you see all over the place, and we're going to play one of them right now, these people who have become stars on television, stars on the internet, and Facebook famous, and famous on X and TikTok and all this other different crap. These people have been lifted in a place that they don't belong to sit. I'm going to start off with this guy named Dave Portnoy. This guy blows with the wind, okay? Dave Portnoy became the biggest Trump supporter there was, got invited to the White House, was sitting next to the president, all chummy and everything else. This guy has made a fortune, again, for taking a .com and selling it for far more than it was worth. Sold it for tons of money. And then the company that bought it from him later decided they didn't want it anymore because it really wasn't that good. And then he got it back at almost nothing. This is another person who has absolutely become the luckiest dude around, worth over $100 million. And what has he done since then? He didn't go out like Elon Musk, who sold PayPal and said, let me create Tesla and let me create a SpaceX and let me create all these unbelievable companies because he has the talent to do it. Dave Portnoy goes around and tries pizza, slices of pizza, and goes viral on the internet because he gives a pizza parlor a rating. This is not a smart man. This is a man who does day trading publicly and tells people how much money he has, how much he's making, how much he's losing. Losers watch this guy, okay? Losers. Now, I'm not to say that he's not a good man because he has gone out and raised a lot of money for charities and for small businesses, but he is being anointed to a spot he doesn't deserve to be in. Trump gave him a lot of time, and he shouldn't have given it to him, to be quite honest. And now, this clown, because he theoretically lost money and got on TikTok and wherever else and started crying, they lost $7 million. Oh, now I'm down $20 million. I wonder if he got on camera yesterday and said about how happy he was, the single biggest day that he's ever seen on the stock market. I can tell you where he did go. He went to CNN and talked about how he would vote for a Democrat if it meant more money in his pocket. You watch this video and you tell me whether or not this guy is a real American or whether or not he's just a card shark. Go ahead.
Could you see yourself supporting Democrats?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing about me, which drives me crazy, I vote for Trump. I support him. I was never like some crazy MAGA guy. Like I look at each candidate and I choose who I like. I think the left and a lot of even what they did with, I want to say, hiding Biden's mental state and not having a primary really drove me to the right. So I am not somebody who would just strictly vote based on Republican or Democrat. I vote on the people running, how I think they speak to me, the issues that are important to me. But yes, I will vote how I feel is the best interest of what I believe in.
Dennis, Dave Portnoy, I don't want to take away from the money he made. I mean, you still have to start a business, and he started a business. And even though he sold it for a gargantuan amount of money that it wasn't worth, he still was able to do it. If you don't take risk, you can't get a reward. So I give him all the benefits for that. And plus, he has raised a lot of money for small businesses, especially during COVID when small businesses were dropping, dead, if you will. I'm not going to criticize him on that. What I am going to criticize him on is that he shows no loyalty. He shows no level of smarts. And yesterday you said that after the market went up, he did like a little happy dance. All of a sudden he loves Trump again.
Basically, I mean, like you said, he blows with the wind. I wouldn't really go to him to take financial advice. I don't think I would even go to him to really get imbued with values because he says, I vote with my values. I'm not really sure what his values are, to be honest.
His
other
values
than-
are money.
and sports gambling. But
Well, that's what he is. He's a gambler.
yeah, you know, so there's
a gambler.
He's a gambler, and again, like
got an
kudos to what
addiction.
he's been able to do with Barstool. Though the way they run it now, I would not agree with their approach. There's a comment I want to address here because I think it's actually brings up a good concern. So Demi Peters wrote, "Don't you think China will use another country to send their stuff, almost as using them as a proxy?" And I wish I had the clip. Someone from Trump's team, it was someone from his trade team, actually addressed that. They used Vietnam as an example. And they said, you know, we know, I mean, Kevin O'Leary's clip was perfect the way he laid it out. China loves to scheme. You know, they steal IPs, they steal ideas, they develop things, and then they don't want to tell people about it. They're mischievous is the best way to put it. So
No, they're scumbags.
they're
That's a better way.
yeah. So I guess you put it more bluntly. So there's no doubt that they would try to use more of those lower tier Asian countries, such as Vietnam, to try and do that. Happened during this 90-day pause is that when they sit down with a country like Vietnam or Laos or Bangladesh, they're going to say, hey, we're going to make a deal. But by the way, we know the loopholes China tries to do here. If they think they can make their stuff, send it to you, and then you go through it that way, no, not going to work. And if you do that, we're going to reapply those higher percentage tariffs on you.
See,
So
now you say it like a college educated guy. I appreciate it. I'm going to say it like a street guy, like I am. I'm going to tell Vietnam, I'm not even going to have them to the White House. I'm going to say exactly what you said, but I'm going to say it in my talk. I'm going to say to Vietnam this. If you don't think that I know that you're sending me stuff via proxy from China, you're an idiot. So here's your deal. You don't have a day. You don't have 4 hours. You've got 60 seconds. You're going to tell me on this phone right now that you're never going to do that again. And if I find that you do one, if you send me one plastic toy for a Happy Meal from China, not only am I going to cut you off forever, but any other country that does business with you, I'm cutting them off too.
And you know what? I just want to point out Mary Alice's comment. China goes through Canada to send their products. I was going to say that the only other country who is now also posing somewhat of the resistance here, besides the other 50 that lined up and said, hey, we want to talk, has been Canada. So much for our nice ally to the north.
Yeah,
there.
because if you look at Trudeau and then you look at this Carney dude, listen.
Carney's.
Okay, these guys are tough. They remind me of Trudeau and Carney. They remind me of the keyboard cowboys that I watch on Facebook all the time. These tough people who tough talk when it's through the keyboard. But I'm telling you right now, you put Carney, you put Trudeau face to face with Donald J. Trump, they're gonna whimper like a little tiny boy. Okay, once they're big and tough until somebody's standing in front of them 10 times the size. I'm telling you, I go back to Vietnam. If you even dare to try to play the game, I am going to make sure that nobody in the world buys anything from you. If you think the Vietnam War was bad on you, wait until I get my hands on you. And that's going to hit. Then my next phone calls to Canada, and I'm going to say, listen to me. If you think that one more day is going to go where you're going to take the Vietnam crap or the Chinese crap and send it through my borders, you are actually going to declare a war. You want to screw with me? I'm going to end you. I'll put you into the North Pole. It stops. And here's the thing. If you're Trump or you're DML, you start the conversation like this. It's very simple. I have been your friend forever. And when I turn my back and I'm not looking, it's the equivalent of you hitting me, sleeping with my wife, talking behind my back, and trying to steal my wallet. Those days are over. I'm going to give you forgiveness on all of it. I'll still be your friend. I'll look the other way because you know what? I have to partially blame myself, but I have woken up as a country. You want to try that with me one more time? Now it comes the other way. Because in real world, if you're trying to touch my wife, you're trying to steal my wallet, you're talking behind my back, or you're trying to hit me, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to whack you. And that's the way it works. And there ain't a single person, not a single person, who is going to say, I want to screw with the United States of America. I go back to my buddy Nick, right? Nick would say to me all the time, Dennis, yeah, we're going to have to raise the price of this CBD, or we can't send this stuff to you, whatever. I say, Nick, no, you don't understand. Your life with me in selling me anything, whether it's at this company or one in the future, is over. And not only am I going to end our business relationship, but I am going to tell everybody else who may even think about doing business with you that they're out of their skull. And he'd say, sorry, Dennis, you're right. That's the way this has to be done. It's called tough love.
And there's one, I'm mistaken here too. There's actually one more country that was not part of that exemption, Mexico.
Yeah, listen, I've already said this a long time ago. I'm going to say it again. You used to hear people like the Bushes or Obama or the Clintons and Biden say that Mexico was our neighbor and that they were our friend. Listen to me. Mexico is not our friend. They are our fake friend. If you are going to tell me that Mexico is our friend, well, then what the hell is an enemy? All right? The Mexican government, which is run by the drug cartels, care not one iota about America. In fact, if they could have their way, they'd want to take back half of the United States because they think it was stolen from them. They are not a friend. Mexico needs us more than we need them. That is the underlying message that everybody needs to have. If you don't put tough love down now, when will you? It goes back to the same thing. Look, I'm not coming up with anything. You know, what Trump does, here's the difference. Here's the difference. Oh, man, I could go on this for 5 hours. Here's the difference. All these assholes on Wall Street and all these assholes who are on the popularity contest on who's got the #1 show or all this, who's got more tweets and all this other different shit. These people come from academia. You know what they teach you in academia? How to be a liberal and how to do your laundry, how to drink, and how to have premarital sex. Those are the 4 things you get from a college degree. The rest of us who have common sense, we recognize how it is that you have to stay above everybody else. We recognize what it is to survive. We understand tough love. When I have my 2 sons doing wrong in high school, you know what I didn't do? I didn't come home and say, oh, Denny, you know, you should really think about doing this differently. What I did was I cracked down on your ass. I went hard. And the reason why I went hard is because I loved you, and I still do, and because I knew that the tough love was actually going to prevail. And you look at my kids today. I look at my kids today, and I compare them against other kids that I know who had parents who were soft. I win every fucking time. Every single time you put my kids up against anybody else's kids, I'm going to win. And the reason why is because I was the toughest son of a bitch there was. Right? Dennis, how many of your friends were afraid to come to our house because they said your dad intimidates me? Yeah, be honest.
Quite a few.
Quite a few. What'd they say? Your dad's intimidating, right?
That's usually
right.
the word.
Ryan, you got your microphone on? Put it on. But let me ask you a question now, Dennis. How many of your friends say, I love DML?
Quite a few.
Okay. How many of your friends say the same about other fathers?
Can't really name.
No. Never.
No.
Ryan, your best friend in the whole entire world, right? He knew how strict I was. What does he say about DML all the time?
Oh, he loves you.
I'm talking about Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Hunter needed a reference, who did he go to?
You.
Right. And then when I gave him that, you know what? Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think you once said that Hunter said, if I grow up and be a man like DML, that's what I want to be, right? I'm not sitting here and saying that I am the cat's meow. What I'm saying is that when you show tough love and you believe in what you say and you say what you believe, people will always have respect for that. They may not like you. I believe me when I tell you, I got just as many people who hate me as love me. That means I'm doing something right. And so this is what Trump is doing. And so when I read these comments online about, oh my God, the tariffs are a tax on blah, 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 blah. What are you talking about? This man almost gave his life in an assassination attempt, not once, but twice. You think he's going to come into office and try to destroy the United States of America and the economy that comes with it? The Dave Portnoys and all these other useless voices, they deserve to be turned off. I have come to a point in time, I don't care. I mean, if one day I decide to run for president or run for senator, these people who I'm slamming today, they'll slam me tomorrow. I won't give a shit. I don't need your endorsement because like Trump, I would go right to the American people. And yeah, some of these American people have lost their spine because they're looking at their 401k. I wonder what the woman who told me online that it was going to take years for this stuff to come back, I wonder what she was thinking yesterday. You think she looked in the mirror and said, oh, I sound like an asshole yesterday? No. We got a clip of Trump explaining, I mean, it's kind of funny. He calls himself the chosen one, but get past the little joke he makes. Listen to Trump explain why it is that he is doing what he's doing with these tariffs. Go.
So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning because we're the piggy bank. We're the one that all these countries, including the European Union, wants to rob and takes advantage of. European Union, $200 billion. China, more than $500 billion. Sorry, I was put here by people. I was put here by people to do a great job, and that's what I'm doing.
Your thoughts, Dennis?
Well, it's funny. Like even with his chosen one statement, he's almost got kind of a legitimate point there, because I can't really think of an alternative leader, and I got to even include J.D. Vance in that, and I've liked and I've been impressed with a lot of what J.D. Vance has done, but I can't think of an alternative leader who would apply the pressure in the way that Trump has done to China. I'm being legitimately serious. I don't know another, maybe DeSantis if he was president, but
DeSantis would do it.
I think DeSantis would do it, but like, obviously this is something that, you know, he knows that it was going to piss off a lot of people at first, like the woman who was probably looking in the mirror to say like, dang, maybe I was a little jumping the gun there, but it had to be done, because if it's not done, the abuse that China has gotten away with for a very, very long time. I mean, this predates, truthfully, even when I was born. It would just continue, and it would just get worse. Why would we want someone who clearly is a thief, as I said, mischievous, although you said scumbags, but, you know, all in the same, they're just going to keep getting away with it. And then you got politicians who are here, like the Chuck Schumers of the world, who are all up in arms about what we're doing to China. And I joked yesterday on the podcast that, you know, the Ukraine flag pins are going to get replaced with Chinese flag pins soon. No one else is going to do it. So he's the man who's actually stepped up and said, it's time to really call their bluff. So, I mean, you know, we got to give him the big kudos on that, because I don't know another leader that would even do it. Even Republicans in Congress right now are up in arms about it. And it's showing their hand that no one's tough enough to take on China the way Trump is.
No, J.D. Vance would not have been able to do this. I mean, I like J.D. Vance. He was not my first pick. I think he's a good wingman in the sense that he's like the plumber. You know, Trump's got his head in the toilet and he's fixing all the stuff and he's ripping all the things out, and he says, he doesn't pick his head up. He just he puts his hand out and says, all right, I need the 3/4 wrench. And JD's always there with the 3/4 wrench. He's not going to, you know, Trump is going to say, I need the 3/4 wrench. And then nothing's there. He's not going to turn his back. J.D. Vance has learned how to be a loyalist. But J.D. Vance does not understand how it is that Trump is negotiating this deal.
Well, there's an old tweet of Trump's that's going around right now. I think it's from like 2013. And it's because some of his presidency tweets are so funny. But his tweet was about, you know, some artists, their craft is painting. You know, some sculptors, their craft is, creating statues. He said his craft is making deals. Yeah. He thrives on it. It's kind of the basis of his entire existence in a way. Since the New York City development and real estate, like I've said, I've been watching The Apprentice, and you could just see it. He thrives and craves it. So this is a man that I just don't know who would be able to do what he's doing right now.
The reason why he craves it is because at the end of the day, he loves to win. Think about it. Look, it's not like Trump has some sort of secret sauce like McDonald's, right? McDonald's has a secret sauce. Okay, at the end of the day, we know you're mixing mayonnaise and ketchup together. It's not a secret sauce. It is a personality. He broadcasts to you what he does. He says, we're going to be winning, 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 winning. He's telling you what it is. He just wants to win. He's going to win. And you know, here's the other thing too. You look at what happened yesterday, and breaking news, all right? I'm getting this as I'm driving home from the Mayo Clinic. Breaking news, New York Times. Trump caves on tariffs. That is not true. What Donald J. Trump did in one day is he made everybody happy. He made the 401k going down to nothing. People all happy. He made the people on Wall Street happy because they made the money on the way down. They made the money on the way up. He made businesses happy. He made everybody. He made the world happy. And at the same time, he kept his tariffs in place. 10% on everybody. You got 90 days to come to the table. And oh, by the way, China, 124. He won twice. Well, I think, what do they say? One shot, two birds with one stone. There you go. That's what he got. And people who don't understand the art of the deal, who have never been in a business environment and had to negotiate your way to success, they'll never understand
Think about it. In these next 90 days, he and his team are going to be negotiating with what, 50 to 70 countries? That's a lot of, it's going to take some, some framework to get some new deals done.
Of course, Dennis. And at the end of the day, the word negotiation is overused here. It's not a negotiation. Just like I go back to when you were a kid. If you wound up getting a 75 on the test because you skipped out of school and went with your friends and you were doing whatever, drinking beer under the bleachers, and I came back and I told you, we sat down and we had a talk. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a one-way conversation. It was like this: Dennis, I understand what you did. It's a mistake. You made a mistake and you paid for it with the price of a 75 on a test when you need a 90. I'm not going to pay for your college if you do that again. That's the negotiation. Do you want to go to college? Yes or no?
Right, I do. Yeah,
okay,
so.
There you go. That's your negotiation. That was your part at the table. Do it again, you don't go to college. Or unless you can pay for college on your own, then go ahead. And in that terms, I let you go for your past crime, and we shook hands, and now you're going to move forward. The fact that if you screw up, you're not going to college. If that's a negotiation, give me a capital N. That's called tough love. Now, here's another thing we have to remind ourselves of. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, arguably the two biggest names in Congress for the Democrat side, notwithstanding AOC, the bartender from New York, but they were champions for tariffs until, of course, Trump put them in place. Play this video of Trump responding to that same thing.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they've been talking about tariffs for decades. How come when these Democrat elites want tariffs, everything's hunky-dory, but when President Trump wants tariffs, all hell breaks loose? Do you see this double standard?
I love this guy. Whoever the hell that is. That's really nice. I appreciate that question. No, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, everybody knew you had to do it, but they never had the guts to do it. It does take guts. It even takes guts for our country to go through it. That's why I say be cool. They were saying about, just be cool. It's going to work out. It's going to work out, and it's working out. I can tell you, working out maybe faster than I thought. But I said it's going to take a little conditioning. It's a transition I think it's a transition to greatness. It's going to be greatness. Our country is going to be, there'll be nothing like it. And people investing in our country, they're going to do better than they've ever done before.
So there's an irony here. So as I've kind of been mentioning, I've been watching the, Apprentice reruns. And ironically, last night, one of the episodes I watched, and this is again from like 2006, one of the winnings of the challenge was that the contestants were given a luncheon with Chuck Schumer, Senator Schumer. Again, this is back in 2006. And it's funny because Trump and Schumer used to be friends. Now, again, this is Trump before politics. This is Trump before realizing the corruption that was going on in the government and before he was even really going in for the 2016 run. And I didn't realize it, but Chuck Schumer's father and Trump's father were friends, and they were both involved in the real estate business in New York. And I think it just goes to show, I mean, this is Schumer before the wokeism and the exposure of how slimy he is. But think about being, almost tied in a way with a long-term friendship through family, and the way that Schumer talks about Trump as if he's, the Antichrist or a dictator or this and that. It just goes to show how slimy some of these people are. I mean, we've been playing the clips of Schumer and Pelosi back in the 90s when they talk about tariffs and trade or even illegal immigration, and you think it's a whole different person. So I think it really just shows how much power has corrupt these people and just made them into almost, I don't know, demonized versions of their former selves.
Well, you and I talked about the fact that we need term limits in a huge way. We've
Yeah.
talked about it 9 million times on here. The president has term limits, but some reason Congress doesn't. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And every time it's introduced, guess who turns it down? Congress, because they're all getting paid for it. You know, on a side note here, I love these comments here on Facebook. Somebody, I don't know if it was, Antoinette says, love you, but your language sometimes is very questionable. Really? I wonder, so did you vote for Trump or did you not vote for him because he said grab him by the pussy? When I go and say something like that, then come to me. You know, there are times, it's amazing. And the reason why I bring that up is because this is the problem with people. This is the problem with people. You direct your energy into the wrong area. For the last 1 hour, I have explained in a way that nobody else is capable or will take the time to explain to you how these tariffs and the strategy works. And the only thing this woman gets is the fact that I said the word fuck one time. There you go. I said it twice. Now you're gonna melt. Here's the deal. You can either think like a Democrat or you can think like Trump. I'm not even going to say Republican. I listen to these people, all these lifelong politicians, the Marco Rubios, the Ted Cruzes, the Lindsey Grahams. These people have never, ever sat in a real business meeting and had to decide which way to go in order to be able to pay the payroll, pay the rent, get the next load in, keep the customers happy. Never a single day in their life. Trump has had to do it every single day. And that's why, you know, people talk about, oh, well, he had a couple bankruptcies. I think it's the best single thing that ever happened to him are those bankruptcies, because it brings you to a low. And when you're in a low, you only have one way to go, up. And you say to yourself, how do I get up? How do I get off this bottom that I've hit? And how do I get up? Real winners know how to come back from losing. You cannot become a winner in life unless you have lost. I remember, I'll put this into a little personalization. My boys will remember this. Back in 2008, when we had the huge crash, the economy just fell out. I had customers all over the place. I had AOL, I had WebMD, I had ABC News. I was doing all the stuff with health and videos and everything else like that. And I was skyrocketing. WebMD had me in their office talking about potentially buying my company. And then what happened? Boom, the market fell out. And I remember going home to my wife, Mary, and saying, we've got to make changes. We have got to do something because we're losing everything. And I remember talking to a guy who was doing the kitchen out in my little tiny house that I had. And I said to him, I said, I can't believe this is happening to my family. I've always been so successful. I said, I can't believe, there's nothing I could do. This is completely out of my control. And he looked at me and he said to me, he says, it is in your control. He says, you can't control how the world works, but you can control how it is that you react to it. And he said to me, and I hope this guy's still alive, he said, I guarantee you within 5 to 10 years, you will be out of this house and you will be living like a king. And you know what? It took me 11 years. And what did I do? I rebuilt back everything and tenfold of what I ever had it. Thank you, President Trump. Without President Trump, I would have never had DML CBD. So anybody who sits there and criticizes Trump or criticizes his language or criticizes my language, you're missing the freaking point. Shake yourself, wake up. Because you know what you sound like? You sound like a Democrat. We have a video. This has got to be my favorite video of the year so far. I don't know who this goon is. All I know he's a Democrat lawmaker. And today, the House is going to pass a budget plan that's going to support Trump's entire agenda, and it is going to come with huge tax cuts, which means more money in your pocket, which means more opportunity in your life, which means everything great for businesses around the country. I talked about this the other day. People told me I was stoned. I said, the tariffs are going to be perfect. There's going to be no inflation, and we're going to wind up getting Fed cuts and tax cuts. It's going to be the most promising era ever. And people told me I was out of my mind. Well, here's what the counter argument is to what tax cuts do for the American people. Play it.
The Speaker is rushing to the floor to pass a budget reconciliation to screw America by passing the biggest tax cut in history on the backs of the American people? WTF? Who's in charge?
Think about the mental capacity of the person, Dennis, who votes for that clown.
That's what the White House social media team said when they tweeted the video. They wrote, "Are Democrats insane, or do they just hate the American people that much?" It's so true. I mean, like, look, I think these guys are just really more looking for the sound bites. Even with the little WTF at the end. But I don't understand. I mean, when Trump in his first administration gave the tax cuts, it literally helped almost, I think, actually every American. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
There is a very simple process here. And it can't, the thing I hate about social media, the thing I hate about television is that without drama, there is no reason, right? And I've supported this with the same sort of scenario story each and every year. It at least comes up once or twice every year on this show. And I've been doing this for a very long time. As Americans, for some reason, we would rather see the bloodshed and complain about it than the beautiful roses as they bloom and enjoy it. Here's an example. If you drive through Washington, D.C. on or about this time of year, cherry blossoms, they're gorgeous. They bloom everywhere. In fact, I go back to New York when we lived in New York. I don't know if you remember this or not, Ryan. I don't know if you remember this, Denny. But we used to have 5 or 6 cherry blossoms right in front of our home. And they would start to bloom. And periodically, we would see somebody get out of their car and start taking pictures in front of our house. And when we first saw it, we're like, hey, who is that? And then you see what they're doing. They're taking the pictures of the cherry blossom trees because they're so beautiful. I have not had, in the 12 years we lived there, maybe 3 or 4 people stop to take a look at the cherry blossoms. But if there was a car accident in front of my house, the traffic would be gone forever. Think about the last time you drove on an interstate and you were in traffic and you're like, what the hell is going on? And you go up and you see some poor schmuck having to change his tire on the side of the road. Everybody's got to stop to look at this poor guy changing his tire. But how many times have you ever seen traffic stuck because there was a beautiful cherry blossom and everybody just wanted to stop and take it in for a moment? We love drama as a country. And what you've watched in the last week and a half is this country's sickness when it comes to absorbing drama. America is run in a very simple way: blocking and tackling. Make products, make services, sell them to the American people, allow the American people to go out and have a job, make more money, get some vacation time, get some retirement funds, and just go live your life happy. This is the way it was in a white picket fence generation. And today, because the internet and because .com and because social media companies and because cable news televisions need to fill 24/7, 365, everything needs to be sensationalized. And then that's where the real crime is. You want to blame Trump for your 401k? Don't blame Trump. Blame social media. Blame the television, because they're the one who freaking made this sound like it was a cancer and an asteroid coming to hit you all at one time. There's no way you're going to survive. It's just not the way it is. You've got to sit back, be calm, look at the basic blocking and tackling of the United States and say, and this is why I said all week, Dennis, go outside. Are the planes still flying? Are the trucks still driving? Are people still buying? Yes, yes, and yes. You're going to be okay.
Yeah. And look, there's no doubt he's trying his hardest. I mean, yesterday, the House passed the No Rogue Rulings Act, which was aimed to curb all these radical judges like that Judge Boasberg from throwing up all these injunctions. And it's great that it passed the House. Now it goes to the Senate. And I don't think they're going to be able to actually get the supermajority they need to pass it. I think there's going to be, I mean, none of the Democrats will vote for it.
No.
And then,
You need 60 votes.
Yeah. And you're going to get your rogue Republicans who aren't going to go for it. So, it's very, I'm sure it's very frustrating for Trump and the administration trying to get these, actions done. And then you got the congressional wing, just, I get it, checks and balances, but they are imposing on his agenda, and it's frustrating. And I'm sure it's got to be very frustrating for the voter who puts in a Republican who then just turns around and becomes, the absolute obstructionist. I mean, I got to be honest, a big state that I got to throw a large criticism at is the state of Kentucky. Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, and Thomas Massie has his moments, but now he's got his whole issues about the tariff strategy that was used.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Kentucky over there.
Yeah.
But it's just got to be very frustrated because as we played those clips, Trump has a plan. He has an idea. Let's hold China accountable and let's get this country working and manufacturing and producing again in a fair way that we've been abused by everybody else. And then you got Congress members who are taking issue with that. It's because of selfish reasons. They know they're putting money in their pocket, and Trump's trying to really stop that.
Well, I'll take that selfish reasons to the next level. There is no question in my mind, in fact, I would bet my life on it, that the majority of the people in the Republican Party who you see rejecting what Trump wants to do, we talked about this the other day on the show. I wrote a whole thing about this on the DML report, is because they are tied to special interest money. That is what it comes down to. There's no doubt about it. Think about, I know people love it when I tell some of my older stories. Here comes a story. So everybody knows who follows me that I've always thought about running for office. In fact, yesterday I missed the show, and I want to say my boys did a great job, by the way. But I missed the show because I had to go to the Mayo Clinic for the second time in a row. I had to go get an MRI. That's another conversation of itself. But when I was there and I was driving the car, I like listening to certain music, and that music gets me into a mode. It's like I'm meditating as I'm driving. And I let my brain sort of just go where it wants to go. I don't give it any kind of guidance. And my brain started saying, you need to run for Florida Senate. You need to run for Florida Senate. If you don't do it now, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I was thinking about how many times I've actually talked about running for office. And I started to, this time I'm controlling my mind, and it goes back so far. I have been talking about running for office, whether it's Congress, Senate, president, governor, for the longest time. And for some reason, I've never, ever pulled the trigger. And I think most of it is because I've always wanted to raise my family. I don't want to leave you guys and go to DC, nothing. And I'm thinking to myself, Kelly, my youngest, has one more year of school, and then she's off. And I'm like, it's just going to be Mary and I, right? And I got to do this, because if I don't do it, I am going to, at one point in my life, not be able to do it because of my age or whatever it may be. And I am going to look back and I am going to regret it. I know it. I can see the future. I'm going to regret it. And I said, all the odds are against me to run for senator in Florida, because there's going to be a lot of names, big names, much bigger than my name, 10, 11, 20 times more my name, that will run for it. And Trump will endorse one of these other people. There's no doubt in my mind. So how do I overcome that? Can I overcome that? And I said, yes, I can. I can overcome that. I could overcome anything. That was my mindset. And I started to go back in time of when I first thought about running for office. What would have stopped me? And it hit me. One day, back when I was on Fox News, I was on the Kelly File. There was a congressman. He wound up getting, I think he wound up going to jail. He got in a lot of trouble because he hired illegal aliens, believe it or not, in his restaurants. But Congressman Michael Grimm, he was in New York. He was a Republican. He was from Staten Island. And I was on the Kelly File all the time. And so Michael Grimm came in for whatever reason. He was having a hit on Kelly, on the Kelly File. And he came over to me, hey, Dennis Michael Lynch, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Good. And we start shaking hands. We're introducing each other, talking, blah, blah, blah. Handsome guy, young guy, has everything ahead of him. And I said to him, I'm glad I got to meet you. I'm thinking about walking away from this business stuff. And I'm thinking about running for Congress because my guy out where I live in District 1 on Long Island, he's a Democrat. He sucks. And he's talking about not running again. And then Michael Grimm looked at me and said, do you have kids? And I said, yeah, I got 4 kids. Are they young? Yeah. Don't do it. And I said, why? It stuck with me to this day. I could see Michael Grimm saying this to me. He says, I entered Congress thinking I would be able to make a change. All I do is have to go out and raise money. The GOP forces me to go out and raise money. That's all I do. He goes, and by the time I raise enough money to make them happy, I get a couple of weeks, a couple of months of trying to be a congressman, and I got to start all over again. I said, really? He says, it sucks. He says, if you're going to be anything, try to be a senator because you got a lot of years between your 2 years are up. He says, but being in Congress, all you are is just a cash register. And I remember leaving the Kelly file that day and being like, man, that sucks. And then I get so pissed off to think about how these people like Thomas Massey say no to mandatory E-Verify. Then I look up Thomas Massey and I see that his number one donor the last go-round was a food packaging company. Gee whiz, I wonder where that phone call came from. Hey, Tom, how are you? Food packaging XYZ company here. Hey, how are you? Very good, Tom. Listen, there's going to be a push for mandatory E-Verify. You know, and I know that that's not good. We can't have that. You understand that, Tom? But, you know, Tom, stop where you are right now. Now, last time I think we gave you $1 million. We could probably up that to $1.5 million, just as long as mandatory E-Verify never sees the light of day. And there you go. 2 days later, you got a tweet, right? That's how it happens. Thomas Massey says, you know, mandatory E-Verify is not good for the American people. My ass. Who says that kind of shit? This is what our Congress has become. A bunch of people who are academias, who never learned anything about the real life, who get cushy jobs after they're done in Congress, write books for $1 million, get to go to all the special parties, get the special you-know-what here and you-know-what there, or I get their spots on Fox News, maybe even wind up getting themselves a TV show on Fox News, or at least a contributorship that's paying $150,000, $250,000 a year. And you're left saying, why can't my president get a bill through? This is what we voted for. Who is sitting there voting against Donald J. Trump's agenda to make America great again? Give me those names. But people forget. People forget, Dennis. And that's why this is just this revolving circle of just crap all day long. And you just try to do the best. What Trump should have done, and he didn't do completely, he should have made a list, Dennis, of every single job opening there was going to be in his administration. And he should have gone to Wiley and said, I have one rule and one rule only. We do not hire anybody from the Senate or the House because one way or another, they're all compromised. I want everybody from the outside. He didn't do it. I wish he did. And I'll tell you, the next person who goes into office, who's the president of the United States, they've got to do it. That's the only way to clean house once and for all.
I think it's pretty well stated. I mean, to your point, I don't think the strategy of choosing people from the House and from the Senate really benefits him. I mean, look, we even had the issue with Elise Stefanik, right? I think she was for ambassador of the UN, and they had to rescind that because they're always so slim on their majorities. It'd be so nice if that wasn't the case, and then it would also be nice, to your point, if they just weren't the fundraising trucks, at this point, because that's what they are.
Dennis, I'll give you an example of something, right? Give you an example of something. I don't have a big problem with Kristi Noem, not yet anyway. Although I think Kristi Noem is out for herself, taking these photographs with her holding a gun with an armored tank and all this, making it look like we've militarized our border. This is attention-getting kind of crap. You know who I like? I like Tom Homan, right? The border czar. Can you imagine, Dennis, for 1 second, what it would be like if you had Tom Homan, Dennis Michael Lynch, and the sheriff from what the hell's his name? He's on the phone. He's on with us all the time.
Oh, Sheriff Daniels.
Sheriff Daniels from the Tucson sector. Can you imagine if the three of us were running immigration, DHS, and ICE? Could you imagine what that would look like? I can tell you right now what I would be doing. I would be hiring you two guys, and everybody be calling nepotism. I said, take the nepotism and shove it up your ass. Boys, go get the cameras. Here's what we're doing. We're going into every single last construction site, food packaging company, sheetrocking, you name it. We're going in and we're doing raids. And you guys are going to live stream it on Facebook and on YouTube and on TikTok, everywhere. We're doing it every single day. You watch self-deportation. We wound up getting a report on the 47 report today. 5,000 people have self-deported ever since they changed the app. They changed the Biden app. What's it called, Dennis? The
CBP One app.
CBP One app. 5,000. 5,000? Are you kidding me? That's like picking up one grain of sand at the beach and saying, "Hey, we're making progress." No, 5,000? We've got 50 million illegal aliens in this country. 5,000? No. Here's what you do. We need to make it a mass exodus, okay? I want to see the governor of Texas get on Fox News and say, we have traffic jams along I-4 and down all the way along the Rio Grande going towards Mexico. People are getting dropped off and the rafts are going in the opposite direction. That's what I want to see. I want to see Gavin Newsom say, I'm going to be putting the National Guard down on the border to protect the illegal aliens from leaving California. To worry about what? Yeah. That's what I want. That's what I've been doing. But you don't get that. Instead, you get these politicians that go in there. That's what you get.
Yeah. And they always play it safe. They never go hard enough. I was going to say that would be a dream team if you guys had that assembly. I think we would be looking at deportation numbers never seen before.
Yeah. Totally. Same thing. Here's Ted Cruz, right? You and I played a clip from his, what was it? His podcast about how these tariffs, I used to do a good Ted Cruz voice. I can't do it anymore. These tariffs are going to cost $4,200 on every automobile when they go in. The American citizen by June is going to be paying $4,200 more. No, they're not, Ted. You're clueless. The next night, he's on Hannity. These tariffs could be great. Baba, you want to know what happened in the 24 hours from the time he did the podcast to the time he wound up going on Hannity? He wound up looking online where people were criticizing him, and he changes his voice. None of these people have any conviction. Trump is the only guy who shows any conviction, and he is hung upside down in the media by his toes as he's some sort of erratic nut. He's outplaying everybody. It's a shame. I know that you can't have a king and a queen, unless, of course, it's at the prom. But imagine for one moment if Donald J. Trump didn't have to deal with courts and Congress, and he was just able to say, hey, President Trump, we're going to give you 30 days, do whatever you want. Let me guarantee you on my life. This is how much conviction I have here for how much I know Trump loves America. Trump would not do one thing to compromise the wealth, the safety, or the longevity of the United States of America. Trump would do everything in 30 days, and this country would go from being a ready to fall off the cliff to an eagle ready to soar. That is a guarantee. I would bet my life on it. Make America great again. I close on that. Anything else to say, my son?
I think you hit it all.
Anything else to say over there, Ryan? You look like you're stressed out. What's wrong? Ryan's got a headache. I must have been yelling too much. You know what? Maybe tomorrow's show, I'll just talk. I won't get all fired up. What do you think? Should I try it? I don't know if I could do it.
I'm watching a video about Democrats raging against the SAVE Act, which is introduced by Trump to make it so that people have to show proof that they are U.S. citizens, like a passport or birth certificate, to register to vote in federal elections. And Democrats believe that this is somehow a poll tax. I don't know where they get that equivalency.
A poll tax. You know what they used to say? That this was, if you asked somebody to give their ID at the voter booth, that was racist. Now, that's what they used to say. I think that statement alone is racist. By default, when you say that a minority, and I guess they're talking about blacks and Latinos, can't figure out how to get an identification, you're saying that these people are so low on the brain chart that they can't figure out how to get an ID to vote. That is not only insulting, but that in of itself is racist.
We have some breaking news.
What is it?
The House has narrowly voted to approve the GOP budget blueprint by a vote of 216 to 214, delivering a major victory for President Trump's legislative agenda.
Well, I don't know if I'll agree with it's a major victory because, like you said, it has to go to the Senate now,
but,
and we're not going to get that passed.
Well, there was worries that because they were trying to vote on it yesterday, and now they tried today, so at least it passed through. But
I could do math. 216 to 214 means that we had Republicans go against it.
Yeah.
Do you have the names there?
I can look for them.
Guarantee you. I'm going to guess these names. You ready? At the top of the list, it's got to be Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie had to vote against this. There's no doubt. I'd love to see who these Republicans are.
I'll try and find it.
Find them. Put who voted against 216 to 214. It's got to be on there. It has to be on there. Let's see. While you're looking that up, I'll look up some. If you're on Facebook and you have a question for me, ask it now. I'll answer it for you. Unfortunately, I can't go to Team DML on my phone. I'm having a trouble getting logged in. And I can't go to Rumble because I'm not logged in on my phone. I am logged in on Facebook, and I see Gene Bernardo. I see Sue Johnson, a bunch of Bob Nicholson. Anybody have a question for me? Ask a question while Denny's looking up to see who it is. No, Carla says Susan Collins and Rand Paul. They're on the Senate, Susan, and they would vote against Trump, believe me. But we're talking about the House. So there's got to be somebody, Dennis. Look on it. They'll have it on there. Anybody have a question? We'll take your questions before we go. We're going long here, and the reason why I'm going long here is because will you run for Florida governor, says Sam Brennan. Sam, this is our good friend Sam. Sam, hello. I missed Sam's wedding. It was heartbreaking for me to miss Sam's wedding. I can't run for Florida governor, Sam, because you have to be a Florida resident for 7 years, and I would have only been one for 6. Breaks my heart. Beverly Hagginson says, Dennis, thank you for what you do. We, the people, are very lucky to have you. Dennis, Denny, listen, we're lucky to have you. Without you, there is no us. Lynn Miller says, how is Mary? Mary's still in a wheelchair, although last night I made her stand up and walk, and I did see, I'd say, about a 5% increase in mobility and stability. She's been going to physical therapy. Thank you for your question and your concern and all of your prayers. Jean Marie says she loves it when I get fired up. I seem like I'm getting fired up too often here, though. Carrie says, Dennis, got a friend that says he lost thousands on the market. She invested marginally. No, see, you only lose on the market if you sell. If you sell, then you lose. It's called an unrealized gain, unrealized loss. Kamala Harris, I put this, Ryan brought this up yesterday on the show. Thank you, Ryan, for bringing me up on the show when I was absent, by the way. Kamala Harris wanted to...
Anita's the best because my computer was freezing.
Hold on, Dennis. Hold on. Let me finish my thought and then give it to me. Kamala Harris wanted to tax your unrealized gains. Trump wants to tax foreign countries. Let me explain this real quick and short before Dennis tells us who the Republicans are. If you have $100,000 in the market, and let's say that over a year's time, you now have $120,000 in the market. You went up 20%. Fantastic. You didn't sell it. You kept it for long terms. Kamala Harris wanted to tax you on that $20,000, even though you didn't take it. These same people who were going to freaking scream bloody murder on Wall Street, that she was going to tax unrealized gains, you're going to destroy the economy. These are the same people who are coming to Trump because he wants to tax foreign countries for diminishing our manufacturing here in the United States. Does that make any sense to anybody? Dennis has the names of the Republicans.
Yes, thank you, Anita, because my computer was freezing up. It's Representatives Victoria Spartz of Indiana and Thomas Massey of Kentucky.
Who?
Thomas Massey of Kentucky.
Oh, how did I guess that one right? And who else was the other one?
Victoria Spartz of Indiana.
Yeah, make sure both of them are gone. Here, so this one comes in. Nancy Storm Sekares says, any suggestions on what stock is good to buy right now? I'll tell you what, I can't give you suggestions because I am not a licensed broker. I could only tell you what I bought. Dennis called me yesterday or texted me yesterday. He said, Dad, what should I buy? Remember that? Okay. I bought a load of what's called a spider. It's a combination of S&P companies. It is called XLK. XLK. It was at 240 going back a couple months ago, and with all this garbage, 179. It has historically brought back about a 20% return. Now, if you guys watched my Life After 50, season 1, season 2 should start at the end of April. I got sidelined a little bit because of my wife, but I wound up interviewing a man named Bill Antle, and he was a Fortune 500 CEO. He was a partner at Bain Capital, brilliant dude. And I said to him, going back, I think it was November, December, I said, Bill, if you had one thing for me to buy, what would you tell me? He said, Dennis, I have had XLK for a long time, and I'm getting between 20 and 25% return. Yeah. I already have some of it. Yesterday morning before the market opened, I called up my broker and I said, I want you to buy me a ton of this. And he said, all right, Dennis. And I looked yesterday and I said, ain't I happy? Yep. That's where I put my money. What else do we have here, Dennis? Anything? I'm going long here because I was short. I shorted you guys on 2 shows.
Questions about Mom.
I gave Mom update while you were looking for the 2 scumbag Congress people. Any other? I don't know if I have any other questions. There were no other questions. That sounds good. I think we're good, Dennis. I think we're good, Ryan. Ryan's like, Dad, please, can we end the show? Can we end the show? So Jean Bernardo says, Dennis, please, I can't find you on my Facebook. It's like it's blocked. My Facebook is Lisa Lou. Jean, I'm not going to start searching for people. I got millions of people who follow me online. Let me tell you the number one way that you can always find us. It's the simplest thing in the world. Go to 47 Report. Ryan, go wide. Go to 47report.com. You put your email address in there and you will get our newsletter. If you don't get it the next day, look in your spam. At the bottom of every newsletter are links to my podcast. And I can tell you right now, unless there's a day when I have something going on and the boys have something going on and we can't go live like we had the last 2 days, and I'll tell that story before we get off. We are on Facebook, Rumble, and Team DML every single day at 10 a.m. Eastern, live. My suggestion to you, and this may sound like I'm selling you something, but I'm not, because I don't get paid. I'm actually retired. I do this for free. My boys are the ones carrying the business. Okay? So, with that said, here you go. I would go to teamdml.com, and for just $30 for an entire year, you will get an alert every time we're live, and you will be able to watch us and be in the live chat on teamdml.com. You never have to worry about somebody putting you in a feed that I'm in. You never have to worry about having some, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Team DML is the way to go. $30. Not only do you help you, but you help my boys continue to go on with the business. My boys do not make a lot of money. I can tell you that right now. We've already had this conversation. I said, boys, I have to retire. My body cannot take going full time anymore. And on top of that, your mother, because even though Mary's stuff is at a height now, it had already started toward the beginning part of the year. I said, I can't do this anymore full time. Do you want to close this business because you don't make a lot of money, or do you want to keep on going with it? And they said, we want to keep on going with it. I can tell you right now, more so for Denny than Ryan, because Ryan's younger. Dennis can go out tomorrow and get himself a job handedly for over $100,000 a year. Easy. He could just walk in, give his resume the whole 9 yards, and there's plenty of places that would pick him up. I can tell you, he doesn't even come close to that. So you would help us in addition to helping you. Go to teamdml.com, $30 for an entire year. What does that come out to? $2.50 a month, please. So that's that. That's the best way to keep in touch with us. And then the newsletter, like I said, if you miss an episode, it links to the episodes. You'll never really miss them. So it's the greatest way to help each other. That's that. Are we done? Do we have anything else? We've gone pretty long here, right? Okay. Just to wind it up, don't forget, buy one, get one free at dmlcbd.com ends today. If you are a customer and you haven't done it, you should do it. If you're not a customer yet, you may want to think about doing that. Anxiety, sleep deprivation, boosting the immune system, skin issues, oh my God, the aches and pains, all those things are basically fought against and beat up by DML CBD, which is the Ferrari of CBD products. There's a lot of people on these feeds right now that can tell you stories. Dennis talked about Anita. That's the woman who runs the DML News app. Trust me, she's got stories about herself and about her husband, especially dating back to COVID. DML CBD, it's the time to give it a shot. You go in there and you're basically going to be able to buy a Ferrari of CBD at a Kia price. DMLCBD.com ends today, the buy one, get one free. And with any luck, God willing, we'll be with you tomorrow. Quick story. I said I was going to say it and I didn't say it. I just saw somebody here say it. On Tuesday, was it? Yeah, Tuesday, I had an MRI. I have an injury on my chest that has been bothering me for 5 years. My ribs do not connect to my sternum correctly because of a baseball injury that I took when I was doing the Yankees camp for charity. And a lot of times it sends my entire vagal nerve. I mean, you wouldn't even notice me if you saw me because I'm so out of it. Finally, I got Mayo Clinic to give me an MRI. I drive there on Tuesday. I was on the show. I was live with the boys. I had to jump off. I'm 20 minutes from the Mayo Clinic, which is 3.5 hours out from my house. They tell me that they set up the wrong thing for the wrong machine. I couldn't have it done. I had to drive all the way home. And then they called and said, we could get you back in here tomorrow. And then yesterday I had to go all the way back. I'm in the MRI machine. Now, I've had MRIs before. They say, Mr. Lynch, this is going to be an hour and 10 minutes. I said, an hour and 10 minutes? They said, yeah. I said, really? Why is it so long? Well, we're going to do it without contrast and we're going to do it contrast. I'm in this MRI machine. And like I said, I've taken it before. I'm in there for 30 minutes. And I hit they give you a little squeeze thing to it. I squeeze it. They're like, what's up, Mr. Lynch? I said, it's like 110 degrees in here. I'm sweating. It's supposed to be like this? Yeah, Mr. Lynch, the machine runs hot. I said, pull me out. So they pull me out. I got beads of sweat coming down. I'm like, guys, I am not going to be able to do this for another 40 minutes. I said, it's like an oven. And he's like, yeah, it's real tough. I said, that's it. You got all the pictures you need. And that was it. I left. I'm going to tell you, I am going to get a phone call from my doctor who is going to go that crazy. But it is what it is. We got to fix that. We got to do open MRIs. Until the next time, may God bless you, your family, our troops, our president, our vice president, and all the members of Congress who are supporting our president's agenda, and even those who are not. God should bless everybody. Until the next time, stay well, and thanks for tuning in.
Today's Team DML blessing goes out to John Whitbeck.
All right, John. We'll talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.